Hey everyone, it's Emmanuel Pacheco from Toronto, Canada. I'm on the digital native team for sales on Google Cloud. Today I thought we'd try to learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube. And for those who have always wanted to learn, this is your chance to get started. We're going to learn the basics and we're going to learn a beginner method. So for all those solvers that are out there, we're not going to do algorithms. We're not going to use terms like U prime and L prime and R prime and R's and L's. We're not going to do that. We're going to use just plain English today, and we're going to learn the basic truths of the cube and some methods for how to solve it. When we get started, really all you need to do is remember that the cube itself has some very basic truths. The first truth is that the centers never move. So that the white is always opposite yellow, red is always opposite orange, blue is always opposite green. Doesn't matter. So if that's the case, then the centers don't move. Just like in life, if it's an immovable object and I can't really do anything about it, I can work around it. That's really what we're going to do. The next thing we're going to look at there's really only three types of pieces. There's the centers, which I said don't move, so we can't really worry about those too much. Then there is the edges, which have two colors, and the corners that have three colors. So if I look at that, then I really am only worrying about really two types of pieces. The centers are just a guide in our navigation of kind of what color each side has to be. So as an example, this has a white center, so that should be white. This is a yellow center, that has to be yellow. This is green, so guess what color that has to be? Green. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with just the basic beginner method, lesson number 1. All of this is available on Go/Cube Club as well. Join and meet other Googlers who are solving, or just learn by yourself and do your best to try to get through the lessons. The main thing right now that we're going to worry about is we're going to do lesson number 1. The other thing is, before we even get started, there's a real problem when you start to look at this three-dimensional problem and you start to do this to the cube. You can't orient yourself, right? So you don't really know what's going on with the cube and how things are moving. So you really have to orient yourself properly. So in this case, white, we're going to face to the ceiling, yellow, we're going to face to the floor, or vice versa. If I want white on the floor and yellow facing the ceiling, that way I can orient it and move it left to right. And I can move the right side, I can move the left side, I can move the bottom layer, the middle layer, and then the top layer. That's really how we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the front, which is facing me, the back, which is facing the person across from you, or the camera. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with just the basics of understanding that the only thing I have to do for the first lesson, I'm not worrying about solving the cube, I'm literally only worrying about doing one thing, and that's solving for a white cross. So if I'm looking at the white cross, these edges are really all I worry about. And in this case, I've solved the white cross, but there's a problem. Remember the very first truth I said, that the centers will determine what color that is, and the truth is that it doesn't move. So that blue must match this, and this doesn't match. So now if I look at this and I start moving this is orange. So I'm going to look at looking for an orange center. You see now I've matched it, but now I've messed up all the other sides. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little method, which is just a little secret to get you to do a white cross faster and more effectively. So the right way. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at doing the opposite. And I'm going to look at the yellow center, and I'm going to make a little flower. So yellow daisy, and I'm going to build the petals around it, the edges. So I'm going to look at yellow center, white flowers or petals, okay? And that's the opposite of white. So anything I do on this side, I can transpose it to the opposite side. So in this case, what we're going to do is start matching these colors. So if this is now a yellow daisy, I'm going to get to the white cross the right way. I'm going to look at this and I say, okay, well, that's red and this is blue. I need to match red and red. So I'm going to match it until, oh, there's red and red. I move it to my right. I turn it down twice. I match this orange and orange. So now what I want to do is turn that to my right, match it down. Oh, there's green and green, match that, turn it down. And then I have the last one, which is blue and blue. That I want to match that, so I turn it. Now look what I've just done. I've now done a white cross, but what's cool about it is that I've actually managed to get the proper colors aligned with the center. So that means that those are in the right spot. That's the first lesson. That's all you have to do. All I ask is that you practice it. To get muscle memory, you've got to do it 42 times. That's the average time it took for most people to actually not give up on the cube, is when they understand how things move around. So the number we came up with is 42, which also happens to be the answer to the question, the life, the universe, and everything in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it just happens to be the same number. But if you do that 42 times, you will then learn how to move and manipulate all the other pieces. Now, the next piece, lesson number 2, we're going to look at corners. So if I know that this corner down here has to have a white on it, so anything that has a white, so here's a white, and I've got a red and green and white. So if I look at the centers, I have red and green, white belongs on the bottom, so I'm going to move this down, and that's all I do. Then I look at the next one, which is blue and orange and white. That's blue and orange, white belongs on the bottom, so I'm literally going to move it down, and now I've moved it down. The same thing I do with all of the other colors and all the other corners. I have one left, there's one white left, so that automatically by deduction, I have now solved the first layer. See, pretty cool. Now that I've solved the first layer, now I'm gonna look at the second layer. So this second layer, now remember the first truth, the centers never move. So in that case, I don't have to worry about those. So the only thing I have to worry about is edges. And if the yellows on the top means anything that doesn't have a yellow, so there's a green and orange, it belongs on the edge. There's 4 of them only. So I'm gonna match this and I'm gonna say, okay, this is green and orange. This is green and orange. So green and orange belongs here. So I just have to move this down here. So I move it simply by being able to shift it down. And we can get all the videos and lessons are online to learn how to do those moves, but it's very, very simple. So now I have an orange and blue. So orange and blue. So I'm gonna move this one over here. I'm gonna shift it. And once I shift it, I've now moved that one down, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing for all of my other colors. And in this case, I've got now one left, which is green and red. So I'm gonna move my green and red. And now what I've done is I've matched all of the edges, and I have my first layer done and my second layer. So now I'm gonna go through and do lesson number 4. The first lesson I taught, it was basically doing the white cross. Now we're gonna learn the yellow cross on the opposite side. So that's basically on the top layer. And in this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna find where I can get the yellow cross, which I've done. That's just a simple move. I've got to do one more thing, which is basically just align things so that I have the actual colors aligned, because these edges, remember, have to be aligned, but these two are not. So I'm literally going to just align them properly. So now I've aligned them. Now I've got all of them ready to go. The only thing left to do is now look at the actual corners. So in the corners, I'm going to see if there are any that match. So there's one that matches. So now what I'm going to do is just position it so that all of these now are in the right spot, but they're just mixed up. So I'm going to now solve for those corners. In this case, I'm going to do the same thing I did in lesson number 2, and I'm going to solve for these corners. So this corner here, which is blue and orange, this is blue and orange. I'm going to now move this one the exact same way that I moved the lesson number 2 to move the corners around. And I'm going to do that 4 times until I get to the final corner, and I've now solved the cube. And that's all there is to it. This is actually pretty easy to solve if you really just take it one step at a time, one lesson at a time. And again, when I'm worrying about edges, I don't worry about corners. When I worry about corners, I don't worry about edges. The centers are immovable and they are static and they stay the same. So I don't really have to worry about them. I just work around them. So now, if you want to learn more, just go online, go to go/Cube Club. All the lessons are there. There's slides, as well as each video is about 60 seconds to 90 seconds long. There's 7 lessons. If you follow the instructions and do each lesson in sequence, you will be able to solve the cube. If you get stuck, you can always reach out to any of the other solvers around the world. That will absolutely help you. So if you guys are ready to have some fun, let's try to see if we can do a little bit of a competition.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Hey everyone, my name is Dan Cohen. I'm a Googler and Corpenge and a former World Champion Speedcuber. A few of my fellow members of the Cube Club are going to do a little friendly competition here. We have over 20 Googlers from all over the world who join together to see who can solve the fastest. Since not everyone solves at the same speed, we'll have a few new people popping on screen before we all race to the finish.
Here is an example. We have solvers from Canada, the US, Brazil, and Italy.
Now, the Rubik's Cube is an iconic puzzle. I think we all have heard of it or seen it in one way. It was actually invented in the late 1970s by a Hungarian architect, Emmanuel Rubik, and it's currently celebrating its 30th anniversary since being released.
And now joining us from India and the US. And for those who don't know, there are 43 quintillion possible configurations of the cube. That's more than there are grains of sand on the Earth.
Now, back in 2010, a group of researchers, including Googler John Deathridge, showed that using 35 CPU years of Google-donated compute resources, that any one of those 43 quintillion possibilities could actually be solved in, at most, 20 moves.
I can just imagine what it would look like for that bill. Now we have Googlers from South Korea and Spain.
Now we're getting close to the end, as you can see some of these cubes starting to get finished. Unfortunately, none of us are really at world record speed. That record is 3.47 seconds, set in 2018 by Yusheng Du.
And finishing up is Japan, Switzerland, USA, and Canada. Wow, this is amazing. Well, Dan, how would you like a bit of a challenge? What about a head-to-head solve against a friend of mine, my robot solver?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. So who won?
Special thanks to all 26 Googlers from around the world who participated in today's event. We were able to have over 7 countries represented here today. For more information on how you can join and learn how to solve the cube, please visit go/Cube Club for lessons and the Google leaderboard. We have over 1,473 Googlers globally participating, over 40 countries, and 20 Jedi Masters who can solve it in less than 30 seconds. We also get about 6 new solvers per week going through the lessons. Special thanks also to the team producing this. And never forget, if you are curious, you'll find the puzzles around you. If you are determined, you will solve them.